Pretty solid defense there for the first 4 drives, and the offense really made some adjustments to some of the things the defense came into that scrimmage with, and it ended up flipping pretty quick. So it was good to see that the offense stayed with it, made some in-game adjustments, and hit some explosive plays. Rattled off a 75-yard run, for a touchdown, and it was back and forth from there. So it was really good to see that not only did the defense respond in how they started the scrimmage, but more importantly, how the offense then responded within the scrimmage. And it was good to see again that there was over 11 guys with at least 2 receptions on offense. The run game was solid. It was there was a couple explosive runs, but overall the offense ran the ball for 3.8 a rush. So there was improvement there from last week for the defense. But the offense had a lot more explosive plays through the pass game.
Are you, as a head coach, do you like to see it go back and forth? I know when you were defensive coordinator, you wanted to see your defense, but as the guy that's sitting sort of in the middle, does it please you when you see both sides have some good plays?
Oh, it's awesome. That's the best thing. It's great to see. As we started moving through the scrimmage there in the first couple drives, and the defense was pretty stingy, what I wanted to see the most was, come on, boys, let's respond from the offense side. What adjustments are we going to make off of the things that the defense was doing differently? And they did, and it was awesome to see. It was great to see, guys like Eric McAllister step up and make some big-time plays. He had some explosive catches in the pass game. It was, George had a long run in the scrimmage to help get things going as well. So it was good to see those things happen.
You mentioned last week that this week was going to be a separator week. Who separated themselves this week?
Well, I think overall from a roster standpoint, Ty Jones getting back in there and really going full go this week. Boy, it looks a little different when Ty Jones is in there. And so now guys are really able to hone in at the positions moving forward for the season. So it was really good to see him in there. George Tarlos is doing a great job at the field side end, a spot that he's been competing for. So we've liked the progress there. DJ Schramm's been doing an awesome job at will linebacker as well. And Markel coming off his injury from last year, he's done a nice job. We just want to see him be more consistent. Obviously that's going to come with more reps, being that he hasn't played a lot of ball since last fall.
You've mentioned Schramm both times after these scrimmages, and I think a lot of people just assumed when you moved Isaiah there that it was just going to be Isaiah's job. I mean, is DJ pushing for that starting spot right now?
I mean, I don't think anybody shows up and assumes that it's a job's theirs. They got to work for it every day. But DJ's done a really good job. So, we'll keep moving those guys and repping them in there to see what the best lineup is.
You mentioned those explosive runs today. What was allowing those to happen? Was it the line making a great block? Was it just a back making a great play?
One in particular that went for 75 yards. It was the whole offense. There was wide receivers involved in the blocking scheme, and they actually did a really good job to spring George, and they weren't going to catch George when he got in the open field.
So it was George that had the long run?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, Andy, after the scrimmage, I mean, touch on it a little bit, but your overall feeling, are you guys where you need to be at this time of fall camp?
Yeah, we're really excited about where we're at right now. I mean, today's scrimmage was, in duration, in time, was about the same length of what a game is, the average game. From a rep standpoint, the Blues got reps that would take them right there into the rep count was right there of what it would be in the beginning of the fourth quarter on average. So it was really good, being that the guys got great work in, situational work, improved in different areas. And again, as a team, if we're going to improve, it is going to go back and forth. Otherwise, one side's getting better and the other one isn't, by the nature of it. So it was good to see it go back and forth today. It was good to see the guys grind through it, out there in the heat in the hottest part of the day. So it was it was a really good scrimmage.
I know you're probably not going to tell us, but I mean, for you guys internally, when's the depth chart set? When do you guys now have to make some of these calls?
You're right. Here soon.
When you look at this year's team versus last year's team 2 weeks out, how much deeper do you think you are? How much do you think you have as far as bodies that you'd be willing to put in at key times in the
And
year.
that's why we've been able to practice the way we have and build that depth to get the reps, you know, because of the way we've been able to recruit and develop this team this year. And, you know, to your question, there's plenty of guys there's 2 guys that can be the ones. And I know there's only 11 that get to step on the field at one time. But the benefit of the way these guys have been training and preparing is we have multiple guys, you know, at almost every single position that can jump in there, and it doesn't fall off very much. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't fall off at all.
You mentioned explosive plays in the past game. I hate to bring up his name again, but Khalil was explosive after the catch. Were guys explosive after the catch? Was it guys going over the
It was a
top?
combination. Yeah, Jay, it was a combination day. There were some shots today, some vertical routes, some really good catches. You know, Cole Wright showed up today, had a one-handed catch down the sideline. Like I said, EMAC had a couple, and then there were, you know, a couple catches, and then some yak after it. You know, so it was good to see it was happening in multiple ways. The running backs caught the ball out of the backfield in some certain situations too, and did some really good things with the ball. I mean, Caden Dudley showed up today out of the backfield as well. I mean, he put his pads down on one of the DBs and did some really good things in the run game. And so we're excited. That's why you give guys opportunities, and they've been working really, really hard to make the most of them.
It sounds like the running game is kind of clicking so far this fall. Outside of the obvious, a healthy George Ronnie, what's been the difference from your perspective?
I think it's the whole offense. Again, today on the long run, the wide receivers were as much to do with it as the offensive line was. And you give George a hole like that, and it's, you know, George creates a lot on his own when there's not a lot there, let alone if you give him some space. So I think coming into this, obviously, we felt good about the guys we had in place in the backfield, but we needed to see them do it, you know, and we've been able to see that with George, with Ashton, with T. Crow. Caden Dudley has obviously showed up, you know, and Elion has been a great addition as well. So KB's been doing a good job with those guys, and obviously, you know, they've got to have that offensive line clicking on all cylinders, and those guys have been doing a tremendous job. I mean, the practices, and especially in the rundown situations, it has been extremely physical.
I guess technically fall camp's ending, right? With school
Right.
starting, I guess. I mean, is this kind of the time you set the depth chart, you flip to Oregon State? I mean, is this kind of that transition period these next couple days, or?
Yeah, we flip and move on to more opponent scout stuff, but there are still things that we need to work on coming out of camp that we want to continue to bank reps on. So the depth chart, to answer your question, is guys are always competing. Every single day, guys aren't just going to show up here and think, well, I'm the guy. It's competition every day.
How about the competition at the backup quarterback spot? How those guys look?
Yeah, so those guys, both those guys did some really good things. Again, that's the group that Eric McAllister was in with, and he caught some deep balls there, and so they connected down the field. It's just the consistency for them and taking what the defense gives them. And, you know, if there's not anything there for them, then move on to the next play. But the strides we've seen from both Talon and Sam have been huge, both in the run game and in the pass game. And those guys have a lot on them. So really for them, it's going to be the continuation of how they continue on here through the next week with the opponent scout reps and how they handle their preparation, because that's a huge thing at quarterback too that's defining, that is quite different than it is in fall camp. How you handle your preparation for an opponent and get yourself prepared to handle those reps as a backup, because everybody knows a backup doesn't get it, you know, that many reps.
I feel like you've covered this program for a while now, and during fall camp there are good days and there are bad days. But I gotta say, I don't feel like we've really heard about any bad days. I mean, how consistent have the guys been?
You know, well, I'll say there's been maybe 1 or 2 days where we weren't starting the way it had looked, and the guys snapped out of it and got going. And that is way different. And it didn't take much through the coaches and the leadership and guys going, and then boom, we were right back in it. And that's what it's going to take. You know what? Teams that are consistent and do great things and have talent, that talent then shines. But talent's talent. If you don't work every single day, you're not going to meet the expectations that you're capable of.
We say case last year? I mean, could the guys, if the practice started slow, would they have snapped out of it as quickly, as they are right now? I mean, we talked about rebuilding the foundation and stuff. How happy are you to see stuff like that?
There is a tremendous improvement just with the overall consistency with how they work. And they know that, and they take great pride in that now. They take pride in that. Last year, we didn't know to what extent that needed to be. They know now, and they take pride in meeting that standard every day because they know there's a lot of other teams out there working.
What changes now that school's starting up and that they can't be in here maybe as much, or what's kind of different in terms of that? And when you guys, is it a little more, I don't know if exciting is the right word, but does it feel a little more like it's getting closer to the season once you get into school and looking at Oregon State and stuff like that?
I mean, with school starting, that obviously puts a whole nother load on their plate in the time management and things like that. But from the standpoint of what we do here and the operation, we still, there's only a little piece cut out from what we do, which is fall camp now. The rules have changed a lot. So they still have a large gap in the afternoons during fall camp by the rules. Most times, unless we're lifting during fall camp, that just gets filled with their classes now. And them setting their priorities and making sure that they keep what is most important at the front of their priorities is obviously a huge objective. We just spoke about that as we left the scrimmage because school is starting. Everybody's on campus now. How are we going to stay locked in with the sense of urgency and consistency that we've been operating with here in the last couple of weeks?
How's the secondary operating with Oladipo and Robinson at field safety?
With Ty Jones in there, I mean, Ty Jones brings a whole nother level of experience from knowledge of the defense, in-game adjustments, and being able to see, recognize, and adjust on the fly. So, that's a position right there that obviously we'll carry on into this week, to see who best suits to go on the field first. But they're both going to play. I mean, they both have done a really good job in their second year with the time they've gotten on the field. It's much improved from where they were last year, as you would expect, them being younger guys.
You've mentioned George Tarlos a couple times too. I mean, is he, when you get a guy for 1 year, it's just they want to come in obviously make an impact. You bring him in to make an impact. I mean, is he to this point done and played like you guys hoped he would when you signed him?
Yeah, he's grown. I mean, he's a totally different player than what he was when he first got here in the spring, and he'll tell you that. But I'll tell you the only reason why he is because he's one of the hardest working guys on this team. He spends so much time here. He's one of the first guys here every single morning getting his body ready, making sure that he's squared away, and he wants to do his best for this team, and that's what the really cool part is you get in these situations sometimes and guys, I only got 1 year, I got to do it for myself, and there is no sign of that with George. How much of a team player he is, how much he helps the other guys around him, which being the first year in the program, that's pretty impressive in itself that he can help the younger guys already. So we're really excited about where he's at and what he's doing.
With Kid Connie, I mean, maybe the message is the same from before fall camp because you guys knew what he was going to bring to the table. But we mentioned an improvement in the run game and stuff like that. Like, how much of a factor has he been now that you're over 2 weeks into the fall camp?
The fact of him and Hank being on the same page and their experience with the center that has that experience, that knowledge, that mentality with Hank. I mean, the way those two guys operate together, that's where it all starts right there, whether it's in the run game or the pass game. And so we've been really pleased with how they've grown together. And to be honest with you, that starts too with if you're going to work that closely together on the field, you got to build a relationship that is off the field too. And so that is a huge part of the success and where it starts right there in the middle of the offense.
What do they do off the field?
I don't know. You got to ask them.
We haven't talked much about special teams, specifically the returners who stood out the last couple of scrimmages.
George has done a really nice job. Ashton's been back there on some kickoffs. Ashton will hit that thing and get vertical. Steph's done a nice job on the kickoff. So, KB and I were talking about it the other day, and one of the best things about it is just the energy that the whole team, when we come together on special teams, it's the whole team, and the energy they all put together when we go into that stuff has been really, really good. Obviously, when it's full speed live in a game situation, that's a little that's a little different. It takes a little adjusting to the angles that go within the space and special teams, but we're very excited about where we're at in terms of their attention to detail and urgency when we get into those situations.
Both Ty Jones and Isaiah told us that at some point in the conversations they went to the coaches and mentioned that they wanted to switch positions. What does that say about two guys like that in particular? Maybe it's happened to other guys. I don't know, that just they make the onus and want to, do what's best for the team to move them around, and then for you guys to listen to them and decide it's a good fit. It just seems a little unique that happened with those two guys.
Well, I mean, we're working together as a team. We don't just make all the decisions as coaches. We talk to these guys all the time. Now, there's a lot that we do, but there's a lot of times too where we work together as a team. And the guys that are older on this team and proven to be accountable and responsible and consistent every day, like those guys, a lot of these guys, we rely on them. And so, if there's a need in a certain situation, then we're always willing to try to put the guy in the best position for them to help the team. And then from there, they got to be able to compete, and we're going to be right there to help them along through the process.
Andy, how close are you and Chuck Pagano? And I mean, I don't know how many college programs have two former NFL head coaches that are hanging out on the sidelines at practice.
Well, he can't be just hanging out at home now that he's retired. There's no way we're going to let that happen. So, no, it's when I was a GA at Colorado, John and Chuck, they're from Boulder, and their dad Sam, who is an unbelievable man, Sam Pagano, was a longtime football coach there. Got to know him and their family and stuff, and so, all the way back 2007, 2008. I helped them with their family football camp, the Mile High camp that they would put on every summer, which was awesome because there'd be NFL coaches there that I would get to learn from. We'd get to help, put on a camp for the youth and the kids and stuff like that and be around those guys. So, throughout the years, just being able to bounce some stuff off of those guys. Even John doesn't live here, but John's been a tremendous help over the course of the years. I mean, some of the things even dating back to 6 years ago that we were doing here on defense, we were talking shop with John and mixing ideas on things.
Not much has been asked about punting, but how has the punt team looked?
That's a great question because we were backed up today and the ball ended up on the other 40-yard line. So we were in a situation at the end of the half and we needed a punt, and it was pretty impressive. The punt operation has been really, really good. Really between James had a phenomenal day today, and Will's right there with him and doing some incredible things. The kickoffs today, they need to be that consistent every single time we step on the field because that eliminates a special team when they're out the back of the end zone. And so we need to continue to see that from those guys because those are game changers. And our guys know that, and they know we appreciate them, and they know that the team appreciates them when they operate that way.
One more, ask you specifically about Hank. Going back and listening to a soundbite from him earlier, and he just said that something about the way that he shows up every day, is the way that he's emphasizing things. So have you seen a change at all in Hank?
Yeah, for sure.
And if so, what yeah.
It is that, and that's probably, you guys asked when we started camp, like, what do you want to see Hank do? It's like nothing different than what we've talked about all year. Keep it simple. Just like we've talked about with everybody and how they show up to this building, Hank's a leader. And he's not just a leader of the offense. And when you're the quarterback, you're a leader of the team. And not just Hank, but the rest of those guys too. And so how you show up here every single day and your urgency and your preparation is an example to the rest of the team. And you know what? To the coaches too. And that's the impact that position has on a program. And then obviously what comes from that, the results, what happens on the field, what you put into something is what you get out of it. So there's been tremendous improvement, in all situations up and down the field, whether it be down and distance situations, field zone situations, clock situations. There's been tremendous improvement, but we still have a jump to make here going into this last week.
You were here with Rippon as a senior, if I believe. I don't know what you had at Oregon the 2 years you're there, but what kind of an edge does a 4-year starter give a team?
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, what we were just talking about. By the time a quarterback's a 4-year starter now, he's probably on the level of a coach in terms of his knowledge. You know, obviously Hank missed some time being hurt earlier on in his career and stuff like that, but Hank's been around here for a while. The biggest thing for him now is being the second year into the same